Hello, greetings, welcome. Glad to have you back. Alright, so got just a touch sidetracked with my schoolwork. Today I decided to do it on the laptop and just fiddle around with my touchpad because all I was doing was collapsing vertices, so slightly tedious but easy enough that I could do it on the computer. So I didn't bother with the tablet input. So I wanted to kind of streamline getting into the painting bit because I am definitely pumped to go ahead and get Jack as close to finished as possible today, but I know realistically that's not likely. I'm probably going to spend at least another day knocking out these details, especially because some of these values aren't quite as close as I would like. So I'm thinking with how yesterday went with blocking in some of these tones, I am feeling like some of the shadows that we had laid down on Jack are not quite as dark as they would be. Or as dark as they should be, I should say. Meh. So there's that. I can kind of move my eyeliner back. I can move this sign out of the way because I got the second coat on the other side. So now that is done, except for a hanging cord, which I need to do for both of them. The original one that was already given, and the second one that was going to be given next month. So, wahahaha. Okay. So enough my silly evil laughter. Already opening up the palette because I did close it. I've been trying to make it a standard practice for me that when I'm done, that I close whatever palettes I have, unless there is enough of a liquid wash there that, you know, I need to wait for it to dry. So I don't want to just have palettes sitting open because I have a dust problem where I'm at. So, fun stuff. Anyways, let's see. I'm gonna go right in, I think, with, well, of course, with our number 8 brush. I feel like this wash wound up a little bit darker than I wanted it. Well, not darker. The highlight looks a little too strong in the center right there. So I'm just hitting it with some water and soften that center just a touch. It's not going to move too much, but it should move just enough that it'll handle that that highlight situation, and then I'll do a secondary glaze to deepen that color, get it a little bit closer to the reference there. Let's see. What are we doing? As much fun as it would be to work on anything else, I know the main thing that everybody wants to see is Jack. You can see some of these values did not go as dark over there. I'm gonna noodle around with the hair just a touch before I get into the face. It's when I first sit down, the face is not the first thing I want to do. It's because I feel like there's a warm-up phase to it, I guess. Going with a bit more of the sepia. I'm going to try to stay away from areas that are right up against his face, for the most part. And I'll come back in and soften a lot of this and add some texture. I want some of these values to just be a little bit closer. I'm gonna see if I could do that little bit of lifting here. I'm gonna try just wet brush and blot. I don't know how much that'll lift. but I'm just curious. This is just that one spot where you can catch just a touch of the color for the bandana or headscarf coming through, whatever you want to call it. I use them both interchangeably, but because I'm doing that, I want to make sure it's clear to you guys what I'm doing. That is lifting alright. Certainly not going to be lifting all the way back to white, but it should be good enough. And that is a touch low. It should be up here. And now I'm coming in and just doing a touch more pigment over here where it was not supposed to be lifting it. So we don't have to wait for that to get back to the right value. This is just the currently the plain neutral tint. Alright, I think I'm gonna leave that. I think I'm gonna start glazing the main color for the face, which I'm gonna go with Quinburn Orange, and then I'm gonna glaze later with some of the more pink areas. Don't worry about that in a secondary pass, but for right now, I want to see quite where these shadows are, so I can see what needs to be done out further, and I'll move from there. We should be alright, I think. And the more I'm looking at the face, the more I'm seeing like there's so much pink tones going on. I think I am actually going to mix a little bit of maybe the Quin Red. Yeah, I think this will work. This is the most nerve-wracking part, is working on the face. Alright, I think I'm going to lay down a little bit of water. I've already brush loaded, so I'm just gonna hop over here, grab my number 8, the long round. I don't use it very often because I really love that point. I want to keep that point for when I absolutely need it, but I want to just gently go over some of these areas where some of these lighter transitions are. So I'm going to kind of give those some pretty wide area around them. I'm gonna hit this one again because this one dried, like, absorbed really fast. And I don't need it strong over here. But that should be fine. I'm gonna leave that wet right here so I can use it for some quick lifting Actually, go ahead and blot that just a touch. Sometimes it's nice to have that secondary brush sitting here. I'm going to move it over here to the right though, just so my hand's not sitting on it. Alright, I'm not worrying about the hand yet, so I'm not pre-wetting anything over there. Just for the moment. I am, like I said, being a little bit nervous, a little bit cautious. Ooh, that is way too red. Okay. So I'm glad I did that. So right now it should be mostly Quinburn orange and just a touch of the quinacridone red. That's better. Yeah, just ever so slightly a nice peachy tone. And a little bit more water. Alright, and I'm gonna ride out on mute for a bit because the my small gamer is a little louder than sometimes. That's already drying faster than I like. I'm gonna hit that with some water again. Like, I see zero sheen. I wouldn't even know that was damp if I hadn't just done it. It's a downside to hot press papers from what I've been told. But I also, I prefer hot press with the level of detail I try to get out of a lot of pieces. If I were doing more abstract type works, then that might be better for me to go ahead and grab some of the cold press instead. Right, I'm just blotting a little bit. I'm not trying to be perfect about it. They definitely want to blot a little bit by the nose. So we're just gonna try to hit the whole face. Minus the highlight areas, which is this delicate balance of like waiting for this to dry just a touch. So I'm just kind of blotting a little bit. Ooh, that's a no strong. Yeah, that's alright, we started over here. I had diluted this with water, and apparently it wasn't quite enough. Alright, we'll start with the strongest color, that'll be deeper in shadow. Notice how I work through here. Some of this should be letting up a little bit. Alright, so just really dry brush at this point. Just going over the very edge of the lip with a touch of that skin tone, because I can see some like orange-ish tones in there. Not worrying about under the chin because that's a really dark area. You can see like we definitely didn't glaze quite so far as we could have with that purple originally. That would be the Carbazole Violet for Daniel Smith, Dioxazine Violet for a lot of other brands, or Windsor Violet if you're a Winsor & Newton fan. But that way you have an idea as far as what pigment you're looking for. I still have a bunch of that mix, and it's still stronger than I would have liked. I do need to glaze much more up here, so I want to do that. Well, right now I just wet the brush. There's still pigment in it. Just a quick little blot, and just see what's still on here. Not enough. That's fine. Go ahead and blot this just gently. Ooh, that's too much. Alright, so blot a bit of that color over here. Make sure I'm coming here with pretty light color. I'll come back to do that deeper line here. You can see that under the eye. I'll go ahead and get that one later. I feel like I'm going to do that with you know, a soft brush. I'm going to wait for this area to dry a little bit more. I feel like I didn't bring this highlight quite as far as it should be, so I'm probably going to try scrubbing that up a little bit. Get my little scrubber. I'm going to work on that now, even though that wash is probably not as dry as it should be before I'm doing this, but I want to reclaim a little bit of that now, and maybe I can get that up. Quinburn Orange and Quin Red, I think, are both listed as staining pigments, so I want to give it a little bit less time to get the opportunity to stain. Alright, and I'm back on mute. I definitely want to work on the eyes like as soon as possible, because this is the creepiest phase of the face when you don't have the eyes in. I'm gonna just run this brush over here. I don't specifically want to soften this wash, but actually to go ahead and kind of shove a little bit of pigment right onto the edge of this wash. Just break up that edge a little bit. And if all I wind up doing is lightening it, that's fine. I can go ahead over here with a really thin glaze and just redo that. So I want it to be obvious that there was some texture going on here. I might even actually add some pigment to the edge of this, because this is such a nice brush for that. If I can get that really dry, go ahead and put a little bit of texture in. I should have gone a little deeper in value over here. So I'll probably hit this area a little bit by the bridge of the nose. This cheek over here by the bridge of the nose, and let me not just leave random blots of water. But yeah, I want to get a little bit more color over there, and then we'll come down to the hand. We'll just give this a minute, because I like to go ahead and work in small stages. So also while I get ready to do that, we'll go ahead and say hi on the Twitch. Way too much water here. Alright, so I'm gonna hop over, and as always, you're welcome to go ahead and comment. Rowdy Robbie joined us today. Says, "Heyo, Ghost Captain Sparrow." Yeah, he's looking a little weird right now. that is about perfect. So glaze this area and will help differentiate the cheek from the nose. And it doesn't matter if I go a little bit over this line past the cheek because there's hair there. It's dark enough that this would be fine. So if you are a little bit wobbly with that line, that's okay. I don't know if anybody's painting along. But if you are, I like to point out those opportunities where, like, if you're gonna flub a line, that's the better direction to flub the line. You don't want to ruin the highlight on the nose. It's better to overspill on the cheek. And then you can cover that up with that darker value that'll sit over there. Since I have this really light pigment here, I think I want to glaze a little bit more in the shadow. It's super light. It's not going to do a whole heck of a lot for us, but anywhere I can just drop in, you know, better glaze to just help develop these areas. That's not hurt anything. There's definitely more pink in some of these areas, so I know I'm going to have to do extra passes in some spots. Put that back in. Again, more pink up here, so I definitely need to deepen my shadows. But yeah, right now he's just gonna look pretty freaky. Like, immediately following this phase, I like to put in the eyes because it's a lot less creepy. Alright, so let's see with the hand. Got a soft highlight right here, and right here. I'm pre-wetting them. I'm also not counting on them because I've seen like some of these washes dry so fast. And that's okay, I might just grab like a really thin wash of that color that we mixed up. And it's just the quinacridone burnt orange and just a little touch of quinacridone red. Just leaning a little bit more towards peachiness. This neat little bit of chromatic aberration going on the edge of this cloth, making this edge seem more red than it should be. I don't know if I'll include that. This is such a light glaze, this is perfect for what I want right now. I just want to do a very light pass. Like, actually where this is at, this is perfect for those soft highlights. I can just go right over everything. I'm going to skip the cloth though. That's up here. Yeah, I'm actually really happy with the strength of this wash. I'm grabbing a little bit more pigment as I come in over here before I go ahead and get the highlights on the finger. Up there. And right now we don't have enough built up where you're really seeing the Axis violet or Carbazole violet really changing tone yet. But later glazing, like, you can see a little bit better there. Some of these areas are not quite where they should be yet, and that's fine. Alright, the nail bed of his finger is a little bit more on the pink side, but a light glaze of this is not going to hurt anything. We'll get those pinker areas in a moment. I went real light on the hand. I'm grabbing a touch more water and a touch more of that pigment. I'm going to keep working the hand, get into some of these darker areas, but not specifically shooting for this to be a wet and wet wash. It's like if areas happen to be wet and it softens the edges for me, great. If not, oh well. That means I need to be semi-ready with my brush. This should be a little pinker from what I'm seeing. I'm just softening that whole edge. That's fine. I'm gonna do it in sections. I got the back of the hand and then I'll do the fingers as their own section. Soften that edge before it gets bad. More orange right there. Okay, so I'm gonna soften this little edge here. And then we're gonna leave it alone. I'll do the plane for the knuckles separately. So from the knuckles up to the tips of the fingers. Just leave that for a secondary wash later. And I added water to my wash. That's probably going to cause a back run. A little too much. I didn't blot enough. That happens. All you do is fix it when you can. Though this has back run a little bit more than I wanted. I'm gonna totally go in there and mess with this wash. Because sometimes I can't seem to help myself. I want to shuffle that pigment around a little bit, not have it sit quite the way it was. Not as weird as me today. Hit 95, shaved for the first time in like 5 years. Yeah, it's like suddenly your skin has air touching it. I can kind of understand that one. Alright, I think we need to do some face details. I kind of want some color on this bone too. This weird little bit of whalebone over here. I think for right now I'm just going to go over it with a little bit of buff titanium. I think it should be slightly an orangier tone than what this will be. But I don't know, it's just like getting to a point where it's like I don't want to see any white areas of the painting unless it's a really, really strong highlight. That buff titanium will just kind of act as a little placeholder for me that this needs to have more pigment on it. But it gives me that visual thing of nothing stark white that's going on here. So it's a really subtle tone, but it's still something. Yeah, so when I hit this, knock that highlight down. I'm pretty sure that was in the Derwent set. Just gonna slide that out of the way. To me it looks like it's a mostly cool tone spot. Maybe it's some hair back there. Let's see. I hit it with a little bit. The sepia ink was pretty neutral. Okay. So that's knocked down a little bit. Like I said, I don't want too many spots that are like really glaring at this point. I want to start getting those values and details blocked in. So, little improvements where I can. I want to see, what do I want to do about the face? Let me grab a quick sip of my drink. I am right here. I'm not going anywhere, but I won't be slurping in your ear. That would be rude. Alright. What's next? So for right now, I'm leaving the scarf alone. I don't want to build up more value there right now because it is so close to the face, and that I do want to do more washes there. I definitely need to push value quite a bit darker in quite a few areas. So I'm kind of game plan on that. I also need to do the more pink wash. I think I'm going to do the Quinn red for that. I kind of feel like what would be really great would be well, actually maybe. I have Quinn Burnt Scarlet back on my palette, and I don't love it as much as I used to as far as like being a plain color just to use right out of the gate. But it was really handy in portraits because it is already slightly neutralized, and I think that's a little bit better for me than continuing with the Quinn Red. Yeah, I think that's perfect. So, while it's a little brighter than I'd like, I would definitely have that in a portrait palette if I were working on a palette geared specifically that way. Yeah, so let's... At this point, I need to clear some space. I have, like, running out of places to mix my weird little washes. I think I'm just gonna clear this spot out. Forget what this particular little group of mixes were for. Probably the peonies I was painting in the spring mission, which I can't wait to hear what's going on with the summer one. So I want to get started. I also want to work on the that other piece of paper, the other half of the page from the spring commission, from the watercolor block. Just a little bit of palette cleaning. I'm trying to be a little bit more relaxed about how I use the palette, like to deal with colors intermingling with each other. But I have a weird thing about like not knowing what I'm mixing together. Like if I'm just using what's randomly on the palette, like quote unquote palette dirt to go ahead and cover an area, and it's not gonna matter, that doesn't bother me. But if it comes to like painting elements here, I want to know what I use there, because if I need to come back into that area, I want to be able to recreate that wash. So I am definitely all kinds of weird about some of my palette stuff. Yeah, I'm glad I put that dot of the Quinn Burnt Scarlet here, because I haven't been using that one as much lately, because I really like the colors from the Quinacridone Coral. Basically more of the bright colors. You can probably get here just by mixing a touch of green or a touch of blue into the Quinn Coral. You know what, honestly, I'm gonna take that as a minor challenge. I know I really want to push through and get a lot done. I also kind of want to prove that I could have done it. So there's a bit of the Quinn Coral. I'm gonna grab a touch of the Phthalo Blue Turquoise. That's not getting me quite so orange. I'll grab the teeniest touch of the orange. But still not that far. Still not orange enough. That's probably too much orange. So just to prove a point that yes, you can get there, you go ahead and balance it with the Scarlet Pyrrole. That's the orange that I have from M. Graham. Very different from Pyrrole Scarlet. Pyrrole Scarlet leans a lot more red. What is its name? The Scarlet Pyrrole, I forget if it's PO71 or PO73. You'd have to look on the M. Graham site if you're curious, but a little bit of Phthalo Blue Turquoise and Quinacridone Coral, and you can approximate the Quinburnt Scarlet. Or you can get Quinburnt Scarlet and it's a single pigment. It's also called Quinacridone Maroon in some brands. I was talking about that recently. I think it's PR206. I think it's PR206, so don't quote me on that one. It's a wonderful reddish, orangish that's already nicely muted. I'm kind of the mind, like, if you don't want to spend the time mixing it and getting the thing exact, you know, sometimes it doesn't hurt to just have these things pre-made, ready to go, so you could just dive right into the painting process instead of spending all your time mixing. Like most things, I am of two minds on that. It's good to know how to do the mixes. I've done way too much of this, I'm just gonna blot it. Blot some of that off on the paper towel and come back in here. I probably should have left that because it would be a nice, like, rugged texture that's, like, perfect. But, coming back in with the clean brush, softening the edge. All the way up into the bandana, practically. Yep, we're gonna soften that again. Not quite far enough on that edge here. Push a touch of that pigment this way. I'm gonna soften it over here. Like, this is due to get deeper anyway with what I'm working on, but and hopefully I'm light enough now. Raise this ever so slightly. You know, another color I really love for portraits is either Purely Violet or That's My Maroon. They're like the same value. It's too much. Blot this whole section. I need to lift more of that. That wasn't enough. See, I have that card over here. I should be testing some of my wash strengths before I put them down on the page, because it can be hard to see between what's on your palette and what you're actually putting on the piece. And the edges of that are going... I don't mind it so much right next to the nose, because that's definitely pushing that separation that I mentioned earlier. It's not perfect, but it's better than it was. Like, I'll probably come around and soften that edge a little more later. That's fine. That's not in a bad spot. That's the main thing I'm worried about, is like, did I go way too far with it? Like, yeah, it's within range of what I wanted. I'm good there. I do see a touch of that more pinkish tone over here. And actually, This would be about perfect for a quick glaze. I'm trying to be really careful around this masking fluid because how close it is to the edge of the lip, it can easily like, knock the brush further towards the teeth, and I'm not trying to make his teeth have a pinkish tone. Alright, plop down a little more pinkishness down here. Because I think maybe Jack had a little sunburn going on. It is so weird doing all of this before the facial hair is in place, but that's how I prefer to do it, because this is where you can like, really see like layers of the skin, get everything put in. There's slightly more pink as well, which is really weird. A lot of times in portraits of men, around this low, it would be kind of like a greenish or a bluish tone, especially if they're clean shaven, which is weird. And keep going on up here. I need a little more pigment for that. Most of this gets lost under the mustache, but I don't want to leave it plain, even though I can't really see some of this in the reference. But anywhere where there's a break in hairs, you'll wind up seeing a little bit of the underlying surface. So you want to make sure you include some skin there anyway. Just because your brushes might not be, your brush strokes might not be exactly in line. You want to leave that area there. I already rinsed my brush like a silly person, so now I'm doing a little bit more pink. The quinacridone burnt scarlet, and glazing around the nose. Pretty normal area to be pinkish. The middle area of the face is generally a zone that's more on the pinkish side, and there's just more blood flowing in that area. Come up here. This is a pretty light wash at this point. I'm just going to impart a little bit of tone. And I could definitely go further. I'm grabbing a little more pigment. Go ahead and lay that in. That's where I'm seeing pink. I'll soften edges if I need to. I'll just push them into another area. It's convenient where there's enough of a shadow that they'll basically vanish. Down here, a little more pink. It's a really soft glaze. I'm gonna go back over here a little bit. It should help fix that area. It's a really fine line that runs under the nose. I'll have to add that in later. It's a really dark value. Probably add that when I do the eyes. At the moment there's enough going on that's wet on the face where I probably won't get to the eyes today. Let's see, we have 10 minutes left. Yeah, I'm definitely not getting to the eyes today. Let's go a bit more mix. Mix. Alright, and actually need a little more paint around those. This part's a little deeper. Right now this wash is still just wet enough that it's going to be soft. Just try to keep an eye on how that wash is blooming out. Let's see if I need to blot it. Here, it's here as well. It would be bad just blotting with my fingers. Sometimes that is just quicker and faster, quicker and easier. Make it English. Quicker and easier than grabbing a paper towel sometimes. That edge is a little bit harder than I like though. Oh, and of course there's too much going on. Yeah, sometimes I prefer my old number 8. That thing, even though I've eaten the daylights out of it for a long time, it doesn't seem to hold as much water as some of these other synthetics. I also absolutely admit that I'm quote-unquote bad at some of this. It's just eyeballing and experimenting a lot of by the seat of my pants, and I will realize mistakes as I make them sometimes. Oh, there's that. I don't doubt that. There's definitely things that I make mistakes doing. Fill this in. There's this weird, like, section that's just a little bit lighter value than it should be. I don't know if I did that. Where was my mix for that? Oh, you know what? I think that was part of when I cleaned off the palette. Brilliant. Great. A little bit of the burnt orange. A little bit of the quin red. Make a new puddle for that mix. That was part of the area that I cleaned off the palette. That should be good. Alright, so really lighter value mix of the quin red and the macro burnt orange, just to fill in this middle area. I'm also going to soften the edge, but I want to wait just a little bit before I do that. I'm bringing that around here. While I have that mix, I should do the knuckles, but first I'm gonna blot this guy. Really gently. That orange isn't going to affect the hair. It's pretty light where it was. But still, I prefer not to have it running there. Yeah, so let's do a quick... This is the orangey tone. I could use a little bit more up here. into this edge down here. I'm kind of pushing it in the middle so I can just wick up that little bit extra pigment. I don't want to just keep pushing that back and forth. And then this needs to be quite a bit deeper. Some of this will get a pass with the Queen Burnt Scarlet layer. I need to soften these edges. So I'm gonna put that one down, go back into the long round, which I already blotted off. Just go ahead and rub that. And out just a bit. Toe those. The center of the finger is a little bit too light. I'm going to add a little bit more tone to it, ever so slightly, because of softening those edges. Just let that fill in. And then should be good. Alright. Quick rinse. We got 4 minutes left. I want to go over the edge of this knuckle with a little bit more of the orange. This one should be a little bit darker. Oh, I hadn't finished putting in the edge for this knuckle. So this hand's going to need more time to finish developing. I do still need to do a pass on it with pinkish tones. But I also need more shadows than I had defined here. I'm trying to just softly go about these. My smallest one is actually asleep, and what I might do, because he's napping, is keep going for maybe another 10 minutes. I'm trying to stay within that hour length, but at the same time, there's something that, you know, needs more work, more development. I kind of want to take that opportunity. At this point, the brush is dry, so it's just very softly just kind of scribbling, put down a little bit more pigment, just really soft touches. Coming from a drawing background, that's kind of where I got that idea from. Almost like sketching. Just wiggling the brush until it deposits a little bit of pigment. But that's not bad. I want to get that little spot out. But yeah, just comparison-wise, go ahead and bring the reference down here. You can see how much darker the values are. Just a little bit. You can see like the cheek, like I didn't go nearly dark enough. And there's this edge that was being formed there. I'm going to hit that with the willow splendor. You know what? I will do that now. Oh, my small one's awake again. He's quiet at the moment, so we shall see how long that lasts. So just dampen the bristles, go to work in little circular motions, like pat, 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 scrub, scrub, scrub. And since I'm lifting up pigment, I might as well see if any of it will deposit along this edge here. I want some texture in there. And it's not likely to deposit much if it does any. But that little bit can just help to break up this area, because I did go really, really light with it, and you're not getting the sense of like the pores that are in the photo. It's something that, you know, depending on who's doing the portrait and why personality the person doing that you would be doing the portrait for, you know, you would want to either minimize those or remove them or accentuate them. It really depends on the person and the purposes. So that's something, if you are doing portraits for people, you want to kind of get a sense of, does this person mind having these things that, you know, make them look like a human? It also depends on your skill level too, because yeah, that'll grow and change over time as you tackle more projects. So I'm grabbing a little bit of that Quinn Burnt Scarlet. I think maybe the very tip of this shadow might have been a little stronger than it's supposed to be. And bring that back around. There is a little bit more here. I've been doing these really light glazes, like in English. Yeah, so because of those really light glazes, I'm just dragging the rest of this wash over this way. Just let a little bit more of that pigment sit in, settle down. Same with here. At this point, there's not a lot of pigment, it's mostly water on this brush. I'll just lightly go over those areas. Might as well while I got it on the brush. Alright, so I'm going to hop over to Twitch. You know what? I'm gonna show you guys what I was getting carried away with earlier. Oh wow, I was on the Be Right Back screen that whole time. Wow. Sorry. Easier to see when you don't have that up, but yeah, I'll go ahead and show you the image that I had to process and fiddle around with making. It's not the actual project because I don't want to run 3ds Max at the same time I'm streaming. Show you guys for a sec. So, yeah, if you're into 3D, the big pain is after you've gone ahead and done things, like this is a flat plane and they cut the letters out, and then you see these white lines, you know, shooting back to the corners, and that's when they've collapsed all of those vertices and they're basically cleaning it up so you don't have so many pieces in the works. So that's what I'm in the middle of, is trying to get all of that cleaned up. That's fun stuff. Fun stuff. Alright. Jump back over here. I think some of the values for Jack are working out pretty good. One thing I might actually do, now that I'm seeing more of like how this is working out, you know, creating that depth and whatnot, I might actually try to scrub out this little spot for the Carbazole Violet and go back in with the Quinn Burnt Scarlet for that. Let that be the part that indicates the shadow there. I'm kind of reevaluating this because I don't think I want to glaze back in with the purple at this point. I think I'm going to go in with a neutral tone. Maybe the sepia from the shade and tone sets and some I'm really enjoying playing with it and working it into the projects I'm doing. But you know what? Yeah, while we're still alive, I'm gonna do a little bit of that. Some of these more pinkish tones in the hand. So I hadn't come in with that glaze yet. Basically most of the hand. Most of the back of the hand at least. Is that warmer tone? I might need to do another glaze later to help further integrate shadows. Not all of that is perfect. The shadow should be darker. I'll put that in later with the shade and tone set. Same thing with this one. Back of the hand. Yeah, some of these tones that need to go darker, I might hit a lot of these with the shade and tone set. Because I like playing around with it, seeing what it can do. Whoa, hold on. Sorry. One thing I'm generally very cautious with is usernames being mentioned while streaming. So that's an immediate like, woo, hold your horses. Fun stuff. I'm just softening this edge here. Just a touch. That is one of the nice things. The cotton-based paper seems to put up with us pretty well. And let's see if I can get down to the Abyssal Violet layer. So I kind of blobbed this one on. I should have been a little bit more careful and come in here with a detail brush so I can actually show like the skin folds. There's right around the knuckle, we have all these really soft folds. I wish I'd taken a little bit more time with that, but I can also glaze that with the other shadow tones that we'll be using. Probably sepia. I think that'll work pretty good for some of these shadows. And then I hate that I like this color, the Autumn Brown. That's the only one in the set that is of a 5 for the light fastness rating. And a 5 out of a scale of 8 is not great. Basically, I tend to avoid colors that are that low. I could probably mix a facsimile. If I go into the Venetian Red and hit it with a little bit of Graphite Gray, I might be able to get a similar tone out of it. So maybe I'll do that. But, well, I have the other card here too, somewhere. There it is. Hiding behind my reference. I wrote all of the light fastness ratings right on the insert, just because that would be really handy to have. That way I know to avoid things depending on if, you know, if I'm just tooling around on my sketchbook and maybe I'll make a printout of something because it turned out great. Okay, fine. I'm not giving out the original at that point. But if I'm doing like commissions or, you know, gifts that I'd like to have last, you know, I avoid anything that's a 5 or lower on an 8 scale. Kind of look at the hand, like what else can I work on? There's still a lot more detail that I could be putting in. And I kind of feel like we're a little too far at the moment. So I think we're kind of calling it a day here. I think what I want to do is detailing the rest of the face tomorrow. So eyes, rest of the shadows, go ahead and get those developed. What else? I really want to reglaze the ocean before I put any more of these ropes in place, because just having this one in the way of the glazes isn't going to be too bad. And that'll also give me a moment to finish cleaning this up. I did a slightly wet on wet glaze and it ran a little further than I wanted it to. Same thing with trying to soften the edge. I was not having luck with getting that done. What I might do is just do a super light glaze along the edge that's right about the tone I want it to be, and soften that down into the water, and then do another glaze to bring that edge up to where I want it to be. Maybe that'll work better, because there'll be smaller controlled washes. So, alright. We'll see how that goes. I also want to deepen the value on this side, and make this a bit brighter. Because that helps bring a lot of this piece together, I think, is because you have that contrast of blue and orange. They are opposites of each other on the color wheel, so it helps make the other colors pop when they're placed together. Same thing with like red and green, and purple and yellow. Those are the most common pairs. There is that. And then, just for giggles while we're wrapping this up, my wash did wind up drying down. And that's pretty damn close, so I'm happy with that. That was a quinacridone coral, scarlet peril, and a touch of phthalo blue turquoise. If you're curious how to mix a similar shade to the quinacridone burnt scarlet, you can play with those. Just real gentle with the orange. It's easy for the orange to overpower. Same thing with the phthalo blue turquoise. So you just want to add enough of that to just knock it down a little bit. Quinacridone coral is wonderful for like florals. That's why I decided to add it to my palette. It's actually the same pigment, it's a PR209, that a lot of manufacturers use for their quinacridone red. Most of them don't use a PV19 for their quinacridone red. Daniel Smith does, so when I'm talking about quinacridone red in this case, it is a PV19. PV19 is one of those weird pigments. If you just go by like looking at pigment codes on the back of your tubes, it could be pinkish like quin rose, it could be reddish like quinacridone red, it could be purplish. Let's see, there's a quinacridone violet is one of them, or quinacridone lilac. No, I think that one is a PR202. I think that's PR202. I would have to look that one back up. Weird how many of these are in my head, and then sometimes it's like I forget. Oh, that's right. I was going to show you one of the really handy colors. So this is naphthalene maroon, PR171. That with quinacridone gold neutralizes really well. Here's with more of the quin gold, less of the naphthalene maroon, so it's like a 2-to-1 ratio, I think, that would put it in the thirds, pretty sure. And then you can see on the other side of the spectrum, you come up to quin gold, over down to the naphthamide maroon, and you get these wonderful, like, nice brown tones that are great for shadows on skin, as well as, you know, if you wanted to paint like dessert type stuff, you can get some more chocolatey tones. Oh yeah, the Caroline Violet. Just gonna do a quick little swatch. On this palette, I decided to go with the Purulines, and it didn't make sense to do a Purulene Violet and the Naphthamide Maroon because they're so similar. They're both these like nice kind of grapey purples. I think the Naphthamide Maroon is just slightly more toned down, but this will actually have a drying shift, so they'll be a little bit closer to each other by the time they dry down. I think that's part of why I like the Grape Ice Pop so much, because it's like that with like a teensiest little dash of the Carbazole Violet. They're both great shades in my book. Random palette yammering. I don't know. Sometimes I can't seem to shut up. This would make this a good job if I don't stop talking, but I don't know. We'll see. I can't wait to get more contrast on the face. So I'm looking forward to that tomorrow. Anything else? I think that's everything for today. I want to let these washes dry down a little bit, and I really want to get more of these details in, because that's one of those rough parts where it's like there's so much more detail. I feel like this is a drop in the bucket, because it is. But you can see a little bit of form happening, so it tells us that we're going in the right direction. Alright, so I think we're signing off for today. We'll be back on Jack again tomorrow. Keep on creating. Bye for now.